You are never going to believe who turned up on our double date. I am literally mortified. So, against all common sense, Samantha and I decided to give Plenty of Fish another chance. I know, I can hear you screaming at the screen right now, but I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. It was late, and Samantha had already nodded off on the couch, when suddenly I matched with a guy named John. I gasped so loud I swear I made her jump awake, which obviously sent me into a laughing fit. I shoved my phone in her face to show her his photo. She just grumbled, "Ooh, he's nice," pulled the blanket right back over her head and told me to go to bed. The next morning, to make up for waking her, I made Samantha her absolute favourite breakfast: bacon, eggs, and a massive cup of her favourite coffee. While we were eating, the topic of John came up. She half-jokingly asked if he happened to have any single friends. Anyway, John and I kept messaging on Plenty of Fish for a few days. About a week later, he asked for my number. He rang me literally minutes after I sent it, and we ended up talking for hours. A couple of days later, I remembered Samantha's joke about the single friend. I brought it up, and John goes, "Funny you should ask. I was actually going to ask if you had a friend for my best mate Glenn." Boom! A double date was officially on. They suggested bowling, and honestly, I was really looking forward to it. Fast forward to the evening of the date. Samantha and I are waiting in the reception area, and I spot John and his mate walking in. At first glance, nothing clicked. No red flags, no alarm bells. But as we were at the counter changing into those incredibly flattering bowling shoes, I noticed Glenn kept looking at me, just staring, as if he knew me from somewhere. I glanced over at Samantha, and she absolutely refused to look at me. She had that tight-lipped expression, like she had just seen the funniest thing on earth, but knew it was highly inappropriate to laugh. She knew if we made eye contact, she was done for. Glenn steps up to the lane, gets ready to take his turn, and it suddenly hit me. I leaned over to Samantha and whispered, "Oh my God, that is Mr. AAA Battery." Samantha didn't even blink. She just stared straight at the bowling pins and whispered back, "I know, and he's meant to be my date." Suddenly, I just burst out laughing. I literally could not hold it in. I could barely breathe, and that was it. Samantha and I were both laughing so hard, we were actually crying right there in the bowling alley. John walks over, laughs at the absolute state of us, and asks, "What's so funny?" Then Glenn wanders over, looking completely oblivious. I somehow managed to compose myself just long enough to wheeze, "Just going to the ladies' room, won't be long." We basically sprinted to the bathroom and finally managed to catch our breath. Samantha looks at me, absolute panic in her eyes, and asks, "What am I going to do?" I looked her dead in the eye and calmly said, "We go out there, we beat them at bowling, and absolutely no one mentions batteries or buckets." So, we go back out, looking at least semi-composed. And, well, we didn't win at bowling, but it was actually a really fun time. Glenn was pretty quiet. He kept glancing at me like he was trying to put a name to a face, but he didn't say anything. Then, John smiles and says, "To make you feel better, and seeing as you lost so graciously, I'm going to treat us all to some chicken and chips." And you will never believe what Glenn did. He looks at me, his eyes go wide, and he says really loud to John, "I remember where I know her from." John looks at him, then looks at me. Glenn's face suddenly goes bright red. He stammers and says, "Well, when you suggested a bargain bucket of chicken, It reminded me of the story I told you about Mr. AAA Battery and Mrs. Bucket. That was it. We completely lost it again. We couldn't even speak to explain ourselves. We just turned around, walked away from them, got into my car, and sat there dying of laughter for a solid 20 minutes. Suddenly, there was a knock on the window. It was John. He was standing there in the parking lot, holding a massive bucket of chicken and chips. He handed it through the window, smiled, and just said he couldn't wait to see me again. So yeah, that is the story of how a literal bargain bucket of chicken brought my worst plenty of fish nightmare back to life. But honestly, a man who brings you deep-fried food while you are having a complete breakdown in a car park is definitely getting a second date. Have you ever had a dating app disaster haunt you in real life? Please tell me I'm not the only one. Drop your most awkward real-life run-ins in the comments below, because I need to know I'm not alone here. And if you want to know what happened on date number 2 with John, safely away from any batteries, make sure you hit subscribe. Catch you in the next one.